Good evening, Swindon Town fans. That's right, filling Fifey is back by unpopular demand. Fifey's taken a well-deserved break with his friends Johnny Walker and Ron Bacardi today. But he said he will be joining us later, so hopefully we'll hear from him soon. So obviously Saturday against Harrogate, not the result we wanted. Quite a poor performance as well by the sounds of it. Let's start with those that were there. Rich, what happened then, mate?
We didn't win. No, we didn't. We didn't do what we thought we were going to do. I think we took Harrogate a little bit for granted. I think we all thought, given the success that we had up there late last season, I think we thought it was probably going to be it was going to be quite cushy, but it didn't turn out that way. I felt as if we started quite well, but there was I think it was mainly down to individual performances, really, and defensively, the back line, I think, just wasn't strong enough. I don't think the formation worked at all. We were leaving too many gaps in the back line, and I just think really it just didn't work for us on Saturday. I think Harrogate, after about half an hour, figured us out. They knew they had a game plan, which was basically just to take out McCurdy, get him rattled, and they successfully did that, like a lot of teams did do last season. But we didn't lose to those significant margins last season. So there is obviously something in the back line that's not quite working. But yeah, I think individual performances like Louis Reed, very rarely do we see Louis Reed have a bad game. But on Saturday, he couldn't even complete a 5-yard pass. So that was a little bit worrying. But I think, it was a bit of a shame. Obviously going up there, 4 hours down, 4 hours back, was obviously, and to lose 3-0 on the opening day of the season is obviously really, really hard to take. But I don't think we should be thinking negatively after that performance. Again, it's a 46 game season. We've got 45 games left. So, and one other thing I do want to mention, I'm not sure if Woody's going to mention it, but I think the criticism Sol Bryn got was completely unnecessary. Do I think he should have started in goal? No, I don't. Do I think he deserved the criticism after the third goal that he got? No, I don't. I don't think so. I do think Lewis Ward should start, but I would hate to see Lewis Ward start after Sol Bryn got so much criticism. I just don't think that's great for a goalkeeper at all, especially if somebody of Sol Bryn's age. He's still learning his craft. So I do think that was a little bit disappointing to see that from our fans. But
yeah,
typical Swindon for you.
Yeah. It sounds like it, man. I mean, we'll come on to Sol Bryn in a bit, and like you said, fair play to those fans who took that long journey up there and back, and to go and watch that shower. Yeah, you're going to be a little bit pissed off, aren't you, at the very least? Woody, do you think it was more of us not playing very well, or were Harrogate good? Because there doesn't seem to be much credit being given to Harrogate, how they lined up and how they played. Were we that bad, or were they, did they play well enough to, was what I'm trying to say is, did 3-0 flatter them?
3-0 didn't flatter them. I think it was a bit of both, actually. And I left Harrogate with a bit of arrogance, because I generally still don't believe they'll be relegation fodder this year, as I said last week. I think they will. I think a lot of teams will struggle to get points there this season. It's a bit of an awkward pitch. I'm not blaming the pitch, but it is a pitch that once you've adapted to it as you're the home team, you're going to do well on it. And we can't take any credit away from Harrogate, really. They had more shots than us. They didn't have as much possession, but from what I saw on the stats, their passing accuracy wasn't far off ours. I think it was Heedy, I think he's the one that's on loan to them. He tore us a new one, absolutely tore us a new one, to be totally honest. And I just think the system didn't work on Saturday. And I will literally sign off if anybody says we need time to gel today, because the goals that we were conceding, they were defensive errors. You know, they were really poor errors. They were nothing to do with the fact that the teams knew. They were nothing to do with the fact that the defence aren't used to playing together. It was 3 very poor errors that led to their goal. And it was one of those, even when Gladwin had the penalty, you just kind of knew. You knew he wasn't going to score it. I think most of the people behind the goal, our end, where me and Rich were, we just kind of all thought that's just, for some reason, it's one of those days it's not going to go in. It was a very bad day at the office. The one thing I am glad of is that Lindsay came out and said, you know, we weren't good enough. I take my hat off to that, because we did have more possession. Like I said, we did create more passes. We didn't create more opportunities, but he has some out and said how we weren't good enough. So now it's about how we react to that. Am I nervous for the season? No, I can't think of any positives really from the weekend, apart from Khan come on and looked class. But the disappointing fact for me on that is the fact that we've got that on our bench. Why is he not starting? It's and like I said, and I've said it over and over again, if we're playing 3-5-2 or 5-3-2, we can't play it with those 2 wing backs. They're good players. You can see they've got something about them, but it just doesn't work in our system. We need a left-footed left wing back. You can't play wing back system with a right-footed player on left back. It just doesn't work, because it makes you too narrow down the middle. But yeah, and I agree with Rich. I think Solbrin probably did get harshly criticised, to be totally honest. I think he couldn't have done too much about the goals, and I think somebody said in the chat as well, after they watched the highlights, I can't remember, it might be Mark, just said that, Harrogate just took their opportunities. It came down to them. 2 of their goals were like, let's just hit it. Let's hit it when we're in the area. And we didn't have enough of that. I think I was quite surprised when I read that we had 10 shots on goal, because I generally don't remember having 10 shots on goal, with the exception of our centre-backs probably each having a shot. But yeah, it just wasn't good enough. Am I panicking? No. But it is, I said we needed an important start, so it just makes Salford a massive game. We can talk about it being a 45-game season, a 46-game season or whatever, but we don't want to be in the situation where we're going, oh, it's okay, we've still got 30 games to go, but we've only won 3. But we do need to pick it up on Saturday.
I think, it's interesting you're saying about, because, I was one of the ones who agreed with you about it being a good start. But the way I see a good start, it's a good start to the month, not necessarily the opening day of the season. If by the end of the month we're in that position where things aren't going so well, then that to me is a bad start. Like you say, we've got to get a good result against Salford on Saturday and continue that for the rest of the month. But one of the few plus points we had, and you mentioned it there, Woody, was Khan coming on. Mark, there's been a lot of talk online about how we fit him in. It's a bit of a puzzle, really. Who do we drop? Who does he come in? Is it going to be part of a 3 in midfield, depending on the formation? What's your thoughts on it?
Well, I don't see why we can't change the formation to something like a 4-2-3-1 and play Reed and Khan as double pivots. I just, the pair of them there will do an absolutely fantastic job. Share the responsibility. One can bomb on forward, take it in turns. It's an energy sapping position doing that. So it's almost like playing with the wing backs. The level of energy required. So you could quite easily change that. We know we're good when we've got 3 attacking midfielders in front of them. They can take the ball wide, and you only need to play necessarily with 1 striker. I think for me, the big thing is the formation, and I've been thinking about this quite a lot because obviously Woody's comments and obviously the concerns that a lot of other fans had about playing 3 at the back. If we're not quite sure, we're not quite there yet, then we just need to revert to a back 4. Most footballers understand a back 4. The back 3 is a little bit more complex. I mean, you can argue that you've got players that maybe could play that particular way given time. But if we've got issues in the wing back positions, then just convert them back into the left back and the right back positions, and build the confidence up, but get the best out of them. It just seems a little bit strange that we've got these guys in and we're trying to play a way which doesn't suit them. That was a bit that I found most bizarre. And there's talk, again, one of the other comments maybe talking about moving Hutton and Shade switching the sides that they played at the weekend to the opposite flanks. I don't know, but the important thing is, we sign a player like Khan. We've seen what he's brought to the table in the minutes that he's played. He offers something different. He's dynamic. He's got energy. He's able to break up the play. You notice that he's playing on the football pitch. You need somebody that the opposition are going to be fearful of in midfield, and not want to come up against. And I think we've got to start playing him, and Salford is that game. And just to echo one final point based on what Woody said as well, getting off to a good start, it has made Salford a massive game, because I'm quite worried after Warsaw's performance at the weekend. The cup game could end up being 3 defeats in a row if the Salford reverse goes against us, and you start to build a bit of momentum from a negative point of view, and heads go down. And we've got to, we can't afford to get ourselves into dire straits early doors.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Ben, is it, should we be at panic stations at the moment with it just one game into the season, considering how many of us thought that we would beat Harrogate? By that, I mean, do you think that Lindsay will change the team based on one performance? Will he change the formation?
That's a very good question. I'm not sure. I think the team selection was poor yesterday. I was actually a little bit disappointed. Firstly, with Williams and Gladwin in midfield, when we kind of discovered last season that it didn't work. And when Reed's not on it, that's the whole central midfield. Is it gone? Am I back again? Our whole central midfield's off. If you got Reed, Glavin, and Williams, I think Glavin had a decent enough game, but it doesn't work as them three. So you have to stick calm there to see what happens. And like everyone else agrees, I think we need if we're going to go wing backs, need a right footer and a left footer, just for the balance of the side. The 3 defenders haven't played together, but McDonald has only had 2 weeks of pre-season, so he's not going to be quite on it. It just didn't. It was just a really bad day at the office. So I think it does need a change. I think he probably will stick with 3-5-2, but let's see if he's got anything lined up for plan B, if it's not working by half time, if we can switch it about. He didn't try and switch it about on the weekend, which was a little bit worrying as well. Am I overly worried if we lose? It's a poor start. We put undue pressure on ourselves. However, I'm always saying these things, it's a long season, isn't it? Bristol Rovers didn't look like cannon fodder until November, and just keeping the heads barely above water. So even if we do start, you can turn it around. You just make life very hard for yourself, because the fans will go toxic very quickly if we do start badly.
Yeah, that's a fair point, mate. It sounds like it's going to be a bit more mind over ability maybe for Saturday. So that's I'll come to you, Nick. Do you think that this team has got the mental strength to bounce back from that, considering it is quite a young, relatively inexperienced side compared to many other teams in the division? Do you think that the the mental battle will be just as important to bounce back on Saturday?
We should, because if you look, even though it is primarily quite a young side, but you've got McDonald, you've got Reed, you've got McCurdy, you've got Williams, you've got Gladwin. I mean, they're all experienced players. So, they should be able to pull the youngsters through. I think the issue is probably the formation that's already been touched on. He seems to favour Williams and Gladwin playing. Obviously, Gladwin's vice captain for a reason. But if you're going to play those two, you either play 4-4-2, play them 2 wide and then Khan and Reed in the middle, and then it gives you the option to revert to a 4-3-3 by pushing Williams up wide on the left. So then they could play together. But and I think the reason he's going with a back three centre halves, is because McDonald's not fit. He's not match fit. So that should, in theory, give him an extra bit of protection. But it's saying that it didn't work on Saturday. So it's going to be interesting to see, I think, more what formation he plays rather than the actual team that he puts out.
Yeah, I think you're right. I personally think that Lindsay will stick to the same formation. This is the formation that he's probably wanted, you don't start with that formation on the first game of the season just to think, I might change it if it goes wrong. I think he might soldier through with it, but obviously we'll wait and see on Saturday. Before we go on to Sol Bryn and his performance, Ned, there was one player who showed a bit of ability when he came on, and that was Wakelin. Do you think that he's deserved enough to maybe start on Saturday?
I mean, I didn't really see a huge amount of the second half because unfortunately I had a power cut. So
I'm glad I asked you then, mate.
Yeah, I didn't see too much of it. So it's just I saw the first half leading up to about 65 odd minutes, and then the power cut kicked in. But I mean, it's difficult. It's really difficult because, in my opinion, it seemed as if they were still in a week before the start of the season mode. It felt like another pre-season performance. And correct me if I'm wrong, but was Bowdry on the right-hand side, or was it Bowdry was on the right-hand side? I mean, it was such a bad move because we were getting they were outpacing us at the back the whole time. I'm sure it was Bowdry on the right hand side and McDonald's in the middle.
No, sorry, it was Brennan on the right. Sorry, Brennan was on the right. Bowdry was in the centre and McDonald was on the left.
Right. Okay. Well, that's incredibly interesting. I mean, that's the mind boggles as to why he's laid him in that three. There's absolutely 0% chance that I would have gone in with that three on that basis. Then, I mean, surely you want a left footer on the left side, right foot on the right side, and then maybe the experienced non-mobile person in the middle to keep an eye on everything.
I think that's why he eventually brought on Harris for Brennan.
Yeah, I mean, Brennan was awful. I said in Brennan.
Oh, I thought he was good. I thought he was probably the best out of the back three, personally.
I said, who's number 34 on the WhatsApp? I was like, my God, he sucks. He is awful. But first game, as I said, whatever. But it's just my frustration was the fact that obviously we're kicking off the season a week earlier, and it seemed like we were still a week behind. The minds weren't there. They were playing like a Sunday league team who got pissed the night before and just not focused. The defending was pedestrian. I mean, it was shocking. I personally, again, probably showing everyone else's opinions, I don't think you can have Gladwin and Williams in the same team because it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And also, if Hutton's in the team, why are you not using the long throw? What's the point? That's it's supposed to be another feather in our cap. But unfortunately, that tells me that Hutton is not the first 11 player. That tells me that that's he's Iandelo's going to come in straight on the left hand side. Tyree Shade will play on the right hand side when Iandelo's back fit. But
as he should, Ned.
Absolutely.
So
But it just because they didn't implement it. That tells me that he's not going to be in the first 11 because they're not going to rely on it. Do you know what I mean? That's the way I looked at it. And everyone, I just see it as a bad performance. It's just why were they not focused? Why were they certainly a lot, a few steps behind their normal pace at the back? I know that Bowdry's not the quickest, but he's just, the decision making, everything was just that little bit slower than normal, and it's just, I don't know. Maybe
it's interesting, Ned, you're saying about that it felt like the team were a week behind on pre-season, because that was one of the questions that was levelled at Lindsay, and of course he denied it. But one of the things that many fans have been mentioning was the quality of teams that we've played during pre-season. And I'll throw this out there to everyone. do you think that we, apart from Cardiff, obviously, we didn't really play anyone who was either at our level or even above?
I think previous years we have only really played one big team a week before the season. Though I do understand where you're getting at. Woking, and we looked like we properly gelled at all. And I do understand that they played, they went into the Cardiff game exhausted.
Ben, you keep muting yourself, mate. Ben, you keep muting yourself.
There, how's that? I'm not touching the keyboard.
Yeah. I don't know. Somehow you keep muting yourself.
That's bizarre.
You don't even want to listen to your shit.
Sarah's laptop's had enough of me. Well, no, what I'm saying is that it's at Cardiff they played. They were exhausted when they played, and maybe they weren't really on it at all. And I think hopefully this bodes well for next week. But yeah, they still not. There's only one game in pre-season that they actually started playing any decent football or looked any good at all, and that was Woking. I think they just need some confidence behind them. I think they just need some good spells, a good range of passing, some shots on goal, a goal just to kickstart themselves. But yeah, I'll be quiet now.
No, fair enough, mate. We'll go on to Solbray, and he did get quite a lot of stick amongst the fan base. I wasn't a fan of him starting myself, but from what I see of the goals, there wasn't too much he could have done. I'll throw this out there generally, but I'm sure Rich will have an opinion, being a goalkeeper himself. Rich, you said that he didn't deserve the stick, but do you think that Lindsay will change him for Ward?
Not yet. I think they'll keep it competitive between the two of them. I think Ward will probably more than likely start against Walsall next week in the Cup. And then I think they'll probably go from there, because then at least, Bryn's had 2 games under his belt. He's had 1 against Salford. And then obviously Ward will have played against Walsall. And I reckon he'll probably make a decision from there. He'll evaluate it. He'll see. For me, I think we need that commandment at the back. At the moment, McDonald's still trying to find his feet. Like the lads have all said, he's not fit. He's not fully fit. He hasn't played a lot of football in the last year. He's been injured and everything like that, so he's still trying to get back onto terms and things like that. So for him to be thrown in as captain straight away when he's not still fully fit, it would be helpful to have that commandment at the back. And I don't feel as if that Sol Bryn is quite ready for that yet. He's still, like I said earlier, he's still young. He's still learning his trade. That's why he's come out on loan. But I feel as if from what happened on Saturday, the first goal, anybody try saving that, no chance. It comes off the top of the crossbar and it just hits the net. Nobody was marking that player. That was a defensive issue. Second goal, I think we all had to, because me, Woody, and our 2 mates were literally standing directly behind the goal where that ball hit the top bin. And we literally had to duck out the way because it came at such a pace. Bryn had absolutely no chance. And then the third, that's where he got the most stick. He did slip. And again, Woody touched on the pitch not being fantastic anyway. He didn't have an awful lot to do. He didn't have an awful many saves to make, Solbryn. So potentially wasn't ready. I'm not making any excuses for him, because you should, as a goalkeeper, you should be ready at all times. But you can't help if you slip, and you can't. Again, after one game, really, people seeing him and already making a decision just because they love Ward. I love Ward more than anything, but I don't think any goalkeeper at that young age should be given that much stick, except for Kovar. But he proved that over a large amount of games, Kovar, that he just wasn't good enough.
There did
Bryn,
seem to be an element of it did remind me of the Kovar situation when I was seeing the grief that that Bryn was getting online.
yeah.
But yeah, I think. Do you think that we're, and I'll put this out to everyone. Does anyone think that maybe we might not have much of a choice but to start Bryn? Because I'd imagine that a condition of his loan would be that he'd have to play a certain amount of games.
Yeah,
Well, that comes down to finances, doesn't it? It depends how the club want to play it, because the more games he plays, the less money he costs us. But like Rich said, I think he'll definitely play this coming Saturday without a date. You can't drop him after one game. And I agree with Rich. The first 2 goals he couldn't do anything about. I mean, they were decent hits. That's what you say to players. If you could have a shot, hit the bloody thing, which is what they did. It looked to me like the 3rd goal, he was right on the edge of his area, and it seemed he was worried that if he got it with his hands, he could slide out, end up getting sent off. And it looked like he tried to tackle it. My Rich said it looked like he slipped, but obviously it's harder to see on the highlights than being there. So, yeah, to me, I think he's agree with Rich. He'll play Saturday, Ward in against Walsall, and then we'll see from there what decision Lindsay has to make.
Yeah, I think the other thing that we have to be mindful of as well is that Scott Lindsay's been quite clever with the vernacular that he's used with regards to his goalkeepers. He said that he doesn't have a backup goalkeeper. He has 2 number ones fighting for the shirt. Now, for me, that's fantastic management, because that means that he could turn around at any point and say, "Ward, you'll start on this game on Saturday," and both the goalkeepers know that it could be either one of them each week. Now, if it was me, based on Saturday's performance, more so from the stick he was getting, it might just be a case of, look, bed yourself back in with the team, continue the practice, get confident with how we play at the back with the defenders in practice, away from the limelight, away from the fans, and maybe bring him back in for the cup game. It's a different type of pressure in the cup game. The league games, obviously, all the fans are all about the league. Nobody wants to be in this division any longer than we have to be. So I think the first home game, I think the fans will be more on side and more engaged with the team, knowing that Ward was in goal. That's just my personal take on it. But that aside, I think Lindsay's played the blinder by not saying that, one's the first choice over the other. They're both the number ones. And I think we may see chopping and changing based on their performances.
Yeah, and I think it shows good man management on Lindsay's part, really. So yeah, that's a great way of doing it. Saying that I've got two number ones, you're spot on there, Mark. So, but yeah, well, we finished with you, Mark. So we'll start with you on your favourite subject. In the no accounts, there was quite a few rumours going about what had happened with the game and everything, and. If people were to believe those rumours, it would sound like it's a mess, and that Lindsay's lost the dressing room.
Unsubstantiated shit is what some people are spouting via Twitter at the moment, and it's coming from Swindon insiders. I'm not going to name names, but there is a usual suspect involved with those accounts. But coming out and saying that, players aren't happy with McDonald as captain, or there are rifts in the change room, or there's, infighting about this, and nobody's happy about, the level of power that certain people have in the dressing room and above, and certain people want more. And they were challenged over it, and it's all flannel. It's all hot air. God knows where it's coming from. And then they'd have the audacity to turn around and say, that it wasn't them, it was the other person that ran the account, and it was a different source to where they'd normally get the information from. It's just bollocks, but it's dangerous, because what fans are like. Some people will lap up what these accounts say, and will take it on board, and it becomes that mob mentality scenario then, where you start reciting and saying the same things over and over again, because then it almost snowballs into it becoming a gospel, when we all know that that's not the case. So yeah, it's just ridiculous. And so I just don't know what pleasure you could possibly get for doing it. It baffles me. I don't know what anyone else thinks, but I was pretty annoyed at the weekend.
I'm with you there, Mark, and I find it very hard to believe. I know, like you said, some fans are going to lap it up and everything, but for me, after the team spirit and the camaraderie from last season of a team that was put together at the last minute, and I'm sure that Lindsay would have been an important part of that, for that to just evaporate suddenly, I find that very hard to believe. Is anyone else? The main man is here now, Mr. Fifey. How are you doing, mate? Good of you to join us at last.
Yeah, thanks for hosting tonight, Craig. Appreciate it.
That's all right. Always a pleasure, mate. Always a pleasure. So we were just talking about in the know accounts, and you came just at the wrong time. You missed Mark's rant. It was beautiful.
I can only imagine that it's very similar to my opinion.
Mate, it was like a Shakespearean sonnet. It was.
In the know accounts, accounts can literally go fuck themselves. Honestly, so if you're going to pretend to be in the know, like you don't know anything anyway. If you're going to pretend to be in the know, especially after what happened at the weekend, try and spread some positivity. Don't jump on the bandwagon of we've had a bad result. About 60% of the fan base have lost their heads, and you go and spread some shit that means nothing to anybody just to really piss everyone off. Just don't bother.
It was lovely to see the head of recruitment step in and tell him to go, "You're talking out your fucking arse." It was great. It was really, really good as someone who would be in the know. Just come on and put them in their face.
The only issue with that though, he's playing a little bit with fire as well, because he's representing the club. And if I was him, I get he wants to put these rumours and these in the know accounts in their place, like sort of thing like that. But I feel as if for him, for us, it's great to hear that it's all positive. But for him, from a reputation wise, for me personally, I think it's a little bit dodgy and a little bit iffy. If I was him, I would have just held his ground, just got on with the job and stuff like that, because if what he said wasn't what, like you said, in fact, he went on like some other tangent or something like that, he could be affecting his job by just for absolutely nothing. I mean, we know as fans it's absolute bullshit. And that's why most of us know not to even look at them or even think about them or even just,
the thing is, which when they do an intervention like that, it's as if they've, the questions touched a nerve. So then people are like, oh, what are you hiding? Maybe there's some sort of, truth to it. So yeah, I see what you're saying there, mate. And yeah, sometimes it's just best to just dismiss them for the nonsense that they are.
At the end of the day, he's not going to stop all these in the know accounts happening. So why is he really getting involved with something that, I mean, he's just, I wonder how he's even caught onto this. Maybe he's following a couple of fans that commented on it and then he saw it. But I respect what he said, and I'm glad that he's sort of, for our sake, that he said it. But for him, I'm not keen on it.
I can actually see your point there, Rich. To be fair, like I agree. Where the general everyday fan is happy that he's done it, but from a professional perspective, was it the wisest of decisions?
Yeah. So, has anyone else got anything to say about in the know accounts at all, or shall we just put that one thankfully to bed?
I just want to know why these people think it's the right thing to do to have these fake
in the know accounts. Because they're bored. They got nothing else to do, and they just want to fish.
I think it's more a reflection of modern society and social media and being online. People like getting likes and comments and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and the more controversial thing you say, the more people will comment on it, and the algorithm kicks in, and more people see it in the first place. That's what it boils down.
Yeah, but on the flip side, it's like with our podcast, we would love, thousands and thousands of likes and shares and retweets and stuff, but we're not going to outright spread lies and I've heard this, but I'm going to word it this way just to influence people. I don't see the point. How bored must they be to just be making up shit all day long?
But I think as well, what it boils down to is anyone who's got a social media account now can make themselves out to be a journalist. They think they're a journalist by just spouting stories.
It's the anonymity of it that annoys me.
Some people just like to watch the world burn.
Like we front up to our own opinions, you know, we'll put them out there, we'll put our face to it as well though. You know, we'll put our name, our face, our reputation to whatever we say, but we don't profess to know anything that we don't know. We don't know anything, so we say we don't know anything. We're purely speculating on what other people are saying.
We know nothing about everything, I think. But
well, after our predictions, we know jack shit anyway.
Well, yeah, actually, we all predicted it.
I certainly do.
Certainly you, Nick.
Phil Pricey did say a 3-1 defeat if Brim plays, and he was actually one goal. That was you, Craig. So he was actually just one goal off.
But I don't think by the sound of it, it wasn't. That was basically blaming it on Brim, but obviously it wasn't really his fault. So
yeah, no, I think also I haven't said yet. Solbrin's criticism is slightly unjustified and a bit harsh. It's a whole scapegoatism. Yeah. It's the same with Kieran Harries. It's a bit harsh.
Yeah.
No, fair enough, mate. Right, well, we'll move on then to another great subject. Fan meltdowns after the result came through.
Honestly,
I got to admit, honestly, you know, because I tried to stay off the fan groups and stuff like that, but I saw the comments to the posts that Swindon Town themselves put and everything. And to be, there was quite a few. I didn't think there was that many. It seemed like on the Swindon Town Twitter page, it got hijacked by Port Vale fans. Like about a third of the comments were from Vale fans. It's nice to know that we live rent free in their heads. But there we go.
Do you know what? I was glad that I had to drive 4 hours back to Harrogate. That was the only reason, so I didn't have to scroll through Twitter and see the absolute meltdown. That was the only positive of driving back 4 hours from Harrogate.
Port Vale win their first League One game in about 5 years, and all they can talk about is Swindon.
Yeah, it tells you a lot about them, doesn't it?
It tells you a lot about them.
Forgetting Port Vale for a minute. So the fan meltdown thing again, it's quite amusing, really. So I mean, I was actually taking a few screenshots and sharing them in the group, wasn't I? Because and it's important for people to remember, because some fans have gone completely the other way and said it's almost as if people calling these other fans out, saying you can't criticise. No, you can criticise the team for being rubbish if they've been rubbish.
Yeah.
But when you see comments like, because we've lost for the opening day for the first time in God knows how long, this is the worst Swindon Town side ever assembled. It's one game. You know, National League income 6 minutes into the first game. This is why we shouldn't be paying for season tickets, blah, blah, blah. No, it's an absolute nonsense. And, you know, this was going on from 25, 30 minutes into the first game of 46 in a domestic season. Like, criticise, yes, but the melodramatics just need to calm the shit down.
I
tell you, Fifey's been drinking.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's been on one
We've
tonight.
seen this Fifey before.
Fifey's wanted to get a lot off his chest, hasn't he? And I think we might be seeing him as a panelist more often, really. But,
can we all mute our mics and just let the next hour with Fifey, please?
But honestly, so the thing is, we have a lot of genuinely good fans who are realistic, but we have some that just. You've got to understand it's the first game of the season. Yes, we're all disappointed, but if we win the next 20, nobody's going to remember what happened on Saturday. But those comments will always be there to show that you completely lost your fucking head after 30 minutes of the first game.
All right, and anyone else want to add to that?
I think Fifey wants a cuddle.
I do want something to eat.
I think as well, it's I mean, does anyone think that because expectations were high because it was Harrogate, near enough everyone was thinking, and also I feel like sometimes we've got a superiority complex because we're Swindon Town FC.
Yeah, we shouldn't
be
the
big fan base, the big ground. We were in the Premiership, even though we've spent most of the last 30, 40, 50, God knows how many years in the bottom two tiers, and then a team like Harrogate beats us, and then all of a sudden it's a big meltdown when all right, Harrogate were one of my favourites to go down, but because they beat us, I'm not like, going to lose my shit over it. What does everyone else think?
Well, this is sorry, go on.
I was going to say, I think it's that compiled with the anticipation of the brand new season starting. It's an away day. It's Harrogate. We're going to win that one because they were awful last season. We spanked them. And you count down the days, and the day turns, and you turn up, and you wait for us to be absolutely brilliant, and we get spanked. And I just think people can't handle that. I think that exaggerated the meltdown a little bit. But
I'll tell you how illogical it is, Ben. Anyone would think this was the first season we'd ever had after a failed playoff campaign, which hasn't got off to a good start, or where we've lost a load of players in the summer to higher divisions or else, and had to rebuild the team and literally go again. This is the way that it's always been. We've been in this position, God knows how many times before, and this is where the pragmatism, and you have to keep a level head and go, realize, okay, last season, we had a fantastic campaign. It all looked rosy. It was fantastic, free-flowing football for the large parts of it. And we've had a bit of a bump. We've had a little bit of a bump in the first game of the following season. It's like, for fuck's sake, calm down. Okay.
Yes. So I think it's because it was Harrogate and everybody expected us the majority of people expected us to win after what we did there last season. I mean, I thought we would win. I said 3-1 to us. The game I was worried about is next week, Salford. But maybe that opening day defeat may do us some good, because I think Salford have gone under the radar a lot. And as much as it pains me to say it, I think they're going to possibly have a decent season. I hope not.
I'll tell you how it'll go, Nick. We'll turn Salford over at the weekend.
Yeah.
We'll go out there, because last season what we lost at home to them, we didn't really deserve to lose that match. We kind of shot ourselves in the foot there. Yeah. I reckon we'll go out and win on Saturday.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That could turn in our favour, and we get off to a home win first game, which is, we need it now. So it'll be another tense game on Saturday.
It'll be the Swindon thing to do, won't it, to go and beat Salford on Saturday, and then everything's rosy again, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if it's okay with you guys, if if it's okay to move on to the next subject, there's been some rumours with Harry McCurdy. Now, for me, I think because of the type of player he is, he's always going to get linked to other clubs. Every transfer window, we're going to have this. But it was a guy on Twitter called Ryan Whelan saying that there is a lot of interest, not just in League One, but there are Championship clubs monitoring him, as well as Hibs are still keeping an eye on his situation. We know that he's only got a year left on his contract. How confident are you that we can keep hold of him, and should we sell him now and cash in, or wait until January? What do you all think? I'll throw it out there to you all.
Well, we got to find him out of the Harrogate's defence pockets first. But I think I said to Rich on Saturday, as annoying as it would be, it'd be quite good for him to have quite a bad start to the season, because that puts him right down everybody's priorities. And then people start to question whether he's a one-season wonder. But then on the flip side of that, that's when the negative fan base starts to come in. And then all of a sudden we know how well he reacts to fans that don't like him. And we said it last year after the Twitter debacle. The moment he starts playing badly, fans will turn on him. I personally think if we get a bid and it's a decent value, let's do it. The only reason being is because I know he's a good player and all that kind of stuff, but any team really that are taking a player of kind of, what is he, mid-20s and mid-20s?
25.
Yeah, taking a punt on somebody who's only had one good season in their mid-20s. We could be rubbing our hands together, on that. I'm not saying he is a good player. He did struggle on Saturday, but he was also possibly carrying an injury as well. But it's, I felt the same about Jack Payne. At the end of the day, if we're getting bids from higher clubs, we go back to that superiority complex as well. Easy for me to say. We go back to that complex as well to say, what given right do we have, because we're a big club in League Two, what given right do we have to say that anybody should be staying at our club? You know, and I wouldn't with any footballer, anybody, if they have an offer from a higher club, you can't hold him against him, especially in this environment. Football's a short-term career. Would he do well at the next club? No, I think he's found his club. Every player has their club, you know, Nicky or Jose. But it's and I think he's found his club. I think he'd go if the positioning was right, in terms of his financial position. But I also, I wouldn't be surprised if we did get him. But I just don't want him to be one of those kind of last day of the transfer market sales, because we wouldn't be able to do anything with the money. And we got to remember and kind of contradicting to what I've just said. Transfer fees are nothing nowadays, because you get it all in installments. You know, we talk about the Twine deal, like how we got that. We're getting that in installments. We're getting that. We're not getting the 900k or whatever it was up front. So we have to then negotiate a deal in installments to spend that money. So yeah, I agree from a standpoint and sustainability point of view. Let's cash in on him if an offer comes in. I don't want him to go, but I'm not really too fussed if he does. But then I think every time a team loses, there's always going to be especially to a team like Harrogate, which I think is a bit disrespectful to say things like that when they're in the same division as us. But yeah, I think it's always going to kick off the rumour mill. It'll be Johnny Williams soon. It'll be Louis Reed soon. They'll all be mentioned this August.
I literally could not agree with Woody anymore on that. I mean, asking me now, I'm 90. There's no certainties really in football, as we know. I'm probably 95% confident that he will still be here when the window closes, if you're asking me now. But completely agree with Woody. If a sizable offer comes in, there is no player at any club at this level that is irreplaceable. So as long as we don't get, like Woody says, to deadline day, and then he gets sold, then fine. I have no problem. Equally, obviously, I want him to stay because I do believe that he will come good for us again. We've only played one competitive fixture. He could quite easily score for the next 18 games running, 20 games running. He could also pick up a nasty injury. You don't know what's going to happen. But as I say, I completely agree with what Woody said there. I believe he will still be here when the window closes. But if a sizable offer comes in, particularly from a club in a higher division, then I'd wish him well.
A lot depends on what he wants to do, doesn't it? Because he's obviously found a good home in Swindon. He had a great season last season.
Oh, sorry, Nick, we've lost you, mate.
Lost your mic.
You muted.
Nick.
You did what happened with me.
I don't think it muted. I think it's not muted.
And he can't hear us either.
I don't think he can hear us. No.
Right now, there's dogs barking.
Jason, is the sound gone?
Oh, there you are. You're back.
You're back now, Nick.
You're back now. Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Go
mate,
back there a bit, Nick.
Yeah, so you were saying about McCurdy found his home with us and everything.
Yeah, basically, at the end of the day, a lot of it will be up to him. And I've said it before, any team that takes him is taking a risk. And seeing him today at the open training session, signing an autograph with the kids, he looked quite happy. If he's happy here, start scoring, happy days. So I'm like Fifey, I hope he stays, because he just gives that little bit extra, gets the crowd going, which is what we need at Swindon. Do that, and we're halfway there.
Yeah,
I think. Sorry,
no, you're right, Ben. You go ahead, mate.
If the right price comes in, and only if the right price comes in, sell him. But if it gets to about a week before the window, we close the market on him and just say, look, we're not going to find a decent equivalent striker or good enough striker to cover you in that, because we only sell him as long as we've got someone who can walk in and replace him and be as good, if not better.
Bearing in mind, we're looking for another striker as well, so it'd be two.
Yeah, so we need two.
Yeah.
Well, you could argue slightly different on that point as well, because one of the clubs that are interested, or rumoured to be interested, I should say, are Ipswich.
Yeah.
So if you were doing a player plus cash deal for Simpson, and you have Simpson at the top of a 4-2-3-1 with Reed and Khan in the pivot position, that looks a pretty solid middle of the pitch all the way up. And you've got to remember that Darcy's been brought in to kind of do the kind of role that Payne did. We don't know whether we can or not yet because he hasn't had enough game time. But I'm quite excited about watching what the Wiltshire Modric can offer us. But you know, and I look at that and I'll start thinking about thinking, actually, well, that could be quite a coup if we did that. And then you don't necessarily miss a player like McCurdy. And that's the whole point, is that whatever we do, it can't be to the detriment of the team at large. You know, he's got to be replaced with somebody that we won't, you know.
Just two things very quick. Just two things on that though, Mark. Number one is Tyree Simpson hasn't played in 7 months. And two, did McCurdy make Tyree Simpson look good? And that's the whole sort of weighing it up a little bit. I get what you're saying, and I feel as if at the middle of the park, I think that's all great and all that sort of stuff. But when it comes down to it and everything like that, obviously McCurdy is the creative player. I'm not saying Tyree Simpson isn't, because from what I saw of him, he could get the ball down, he could run with it, he did have pace, he did have strength. But again, it comes down to that aspect. Will he be ready to come in? He needed a pre-season, because he out of everybody, he would have needed a pre-season, and he would be playing catch up, and he's not played in 7 months. So it's a difficult one. I get what you're saying though. I do think that would be an ideal scenario, but not for McCurdy. You
could play Abloy in the same scenario while Simpson was building up to fitness as well. I mean, I don't know the again, haven't seen enough of these footballers.
Same with Wakeling as well.
Exactly. I mean, you know, what's to say that Wakeling sounds incredibly creative, doesn't he? You know, and you guys have, you know, seen more minutes than I have, but he seems to, you know a few tricks, can keep the ball at his feet and move around. What's to say that he couldn't drop a little bit further back into more of an attacking midfield position? I don't know. You know, I think, you know, this is the whole point. I think everyone's getting a little bit too overly suicidal about, you know, the back of one game. There's a huge amount of options available to us. It's just, you know, we've got to be sensible. Keep positive.
I'd love to see Smith and Diamond come in. Simpson and Diamond come in. If McCurdy goes, Diamond could fiddle that McCurdy role, and then Simpson is the big number 9. And then we've got options there to go 3 up front, or we can stick for 2. But we've got plenty of options then. But that's my preference.
Yeah, good shout.
Yeah, it's all interesting to see. Like I say, we've got a lot of options there, a lot of unknowns with these players, and hopefully we'll find out in the next coming weeks.
Sorry, is it the 1st of September deadline day?
Yes.
So we've still
probably
got
the first Monday in September or something.
We've still got like 4 weeks left of discussing all these kind of things then.
Yeah, but that's what it's all about, isn't it, Fifey? It's bound to come up again, you know, especially if we start firing on all cylinders. So, but yeah,
we also had a 6-week preseason, 7-week preseason. Look how quick that went.
Yeah. Very true, mate. Very true. Right, so let's move on to some better news, some amazing news, really, and obviously with the Lionesses, what a game that was yesterday! What a performance by them! What a bunch of amazing women! I mean, I loved every single minute of it. I honestly didn't think a few years ago that I would be getting as much into women's football as what I am now, and those Lionesses, they've done the game, you know, they've done themselves proud, and they've done a lot for the women's game there, and so has all the other teams at those Euros. Might as well start off with you, Woody, the main man when it comes to this subject. What did you think of the game? It was a good game against the old enemy, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a very typical final game, in my opinion. I actually don't think we played that great, but in comparison to the other games. But Selena, you know, she said that herself. You know, anybody's asked her, what did you think? Her kind of attitude, which I kind of liked, was, well, we won the game. So it's you know, and that's all that cup finals are about. You know, cup finals are never about performance. Cup finals are about winning that game. And you know, but defensively we were sound. A massive shout out to Earps in goal. You know, she's absolutely, you know, but she's and there's quite a big backstory about Earps, you know, in terms of how long it took for her to kind of get into the England setup, because she was always behind the likes of Chamberlain and things like that. So Fair play to her. And one thing, and I absolutely love her to bits because I just think her banter is absolutely hilarious. But and I just think as an overall, it kind of showed that we can have gut determination. We're not going to chuck it. We're not going to choke at a final type thing. I can't be the only person that thought when Germany scored that equaliser, I can't be the only person that thought this is going typical England. We're going to lose 2-1 now with a last minute goal or something. But yeah, as a tournament as a whole, the effect it's going to have on women's football. This is going to be really controversial, but I don't agree wholeheartedly with what Ian Wright was saying. Not Ian Wright. Yeah, well, yeah, kind of Ian Wright in terms of the support coming to the WSL and WCL clubs. I think it needs to go lower down the pyramid than that. They need to be pushing the National League sides because we still currently do only have 2 professional tiers of women's football who are well funded. They are well funded. But for me, the biggest thing that needs to change, and I hope this does show it, is just the attitude towards women's football. And I don't even mean like the sexist side of it. I mean just general, we can look at our own beloved club, Swindon. Are they doing enough for the women's team? You could argue probably not when you compare it to other clubs in the country. You look at even Arsenal to a certain extent, played so long at Boreham Wood and things like that. I think the general attitudes is what's going to need to change, and it does start with schools. That's where he was right. But I've seen on the Twitter today from Twitter messages online, we've had probably double figures of players contacting us already just on the back of that yesterday. So it's obviously working, and I think it's having a positive effect on boys watching it. Young boy. My Arlo's got no interest in football whatsoever. Watched that game yesterday, and when they picked up the trophy, he says, "I want to be one of those footballers." And I might sat there going, like, "I've taken you to about 150 games, and you've never said that."
Although, mind you, that's Swindon, mate. So that's probably why.
But yeah, and it's it just those kind of things really do make a difference. The ladies have been absolutely fantastic. It's been building the performances, the ruthlessness. I'm not going to say that they do it better than the men. The men's is still a totally different game. But, come on, let's take a leaf out of that book. Look how good we can be when we're ruthless. And we have got the capability to do that in the men's game. We just need to do it. And I'm extremely proud. As someone who's been involved with the game for 12 years, with the women's side of the game for 12 years, I'm absolutely buzzing for it. And I think it's, a fantastic achievement. And I generally think we will be World Cup winners next year as well.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I mean, it's you sort of run out of words to describe the feeling. It's just such a feel good factor. I think after that as well. Through and all the stories that are coming out. Like Chloe Kelly with coming back from her ACL injury, Fran Kirby as well. He was, we weren't even sure if she was going to be able to come back as a professional footballer at one point. So it's just so many stories there. But I think one of the things that we saw in the women's team, it was the incredible strength in depth that they've got there. And one thing that Serena Weigmann was, praised for was her substitutions throughout. And, it's a ballsy move as well, not to play the same 11 all the way through to start through. That is, that takes some doing. Could you imagine Gareth Southgate doing that with the pressure from the press and stuff like that? That would never happen. I don't know what everyone else thinks, but yeah, it just seems to be that way.
For me, so I looked at it from 2 sides. So I saw the sort of status and post that Woody put out afterwards on all of his social media, and I was like, do you know what? I get that, and I like that as to just how proud someone who has been involved for so long has been. And then I was listening to what you were saying when you introduced the topic, Craig, and I was like, I completely get that as well, because I'm in exactly the same boat where I've never had an issue with women's football and girls football. I'm all for everyone has the opportunity to play, but equally, I've only ever been to watch one women's game in my life. But I've watched a lot of this tournament, primarily the England games, obviously. enjoyed it purely for what it is, didn't look at it as women's football. They were just footballers. They were just athletes playing the game that I enjoy watching. And even someone who isn't as invested in it personally, like myself, I felt that sense of pride because I got to witness England make history, you know, and the fact that I was sat there in 4 different group chats with a group of guys from different parts of the country, different, you know, backgrounds, and we were all just talking about the women's football. You know, I had one guy message me to say, do you know Leicester have got their last pre-season friendly on at the same time? And literally he got dogs abuse saying nobody cares. Like, nobody cares because everyone's watching this game because this is all everyone is invested in now. And I genuinely do hope, but for the sake of the game and for the sake of people like Woody, it does have the legacy and it does have the impact that more girls and women do end up getting involved. But I also hope for the likes of, like, I would have absolutely no issue. If someone said to me, you know, when I come down Swindon, if someone said, like, if I'm down for a weekend and Woody says we've got a game, I'd be more than happy to go and watch, and I would have no issue going to do so. And it's more so now that I can say that I've sat through and I've sat through the tournament, enjoyed the tournament purely on the basis of what it is, not discriminatory against the gender of the athlete playing, but just enjoyed the overall standard of what the product was in front of me.
Yeah, I would also add as well, I think that one of the biggest positives from the whole tournament was the lack of the dark arts and the gamesmanship and the feigning of injuries. The game was played how it was supposed to be played. You know, everyone was trying to, you know, win a game of football. I think in one of the semi-finals, I think it's the France-Germany game, there was one dive and the whole crowd booed, and that was it. There was no more. There were no. I didn't recognise a single dive or, you know, element of, you know, shithousery from any of the other teams in the tournament, and that's what made it for me so enjoyable to watch. Just football.
Yeah, it's. I mean, one of the things that that's going to make me want to watch it even more now is that, as we were saying offline before we started, is the women's game feels more like a proper contact sport, whereas the men's, it's as soon as you get a little knock, that's it, they go down. And there wasn't as much, like you were saying, Mark, there wasn't as much of that sort of nonsense going on the pitch. And I just love, you know, they were kicking lumps out of each other, the women on both teams, but they weren't, you know, there's the odd time where they might have made a meal out of it, but in the main, they were, you know, they were either getting back up or, you know, and they just got on with it. And that's what I like. And I think that's what the majority of most fans would like to see in the men's game. All this nonsense, you know, diving and rolling around. And I don't think I saw a player roll. I don't think I've seen a game where a woman who's got tackled or injured has rolled around like 5 or 6 times.
Well, on the complete flip side to everything you've just been saying, has everyone seen the video that's gone viral? I think of the friendly with Bayern Munich yesterday. The friendly with Bayern Munich, where I can't remember who they were playing, but the guys literally stopped the ball on the touchline. The Bayern Munich player thinks he's got a throw in, picked it up, and the linesman's flagged for a free kick because it's for handball. It's just ridiculous that they're trying this sort of stuff. Like, I get it's a friendly, but there's just no need for this sort of shithousery going on in football. Yeah,
absolutely, mate. Yeah, I mean, has anyone else got anything to add about it? I mean, the celebrations were amazing, weren't they, at the end? Just spine-tingling stuff, I think.
Yeah. I'd just like to add to what Woody was saying about Mary Earps. I don't think she got enough credit when they were talking about players at the end. If you look at it, Spain in the quarterfinals, cross-come shot, she pushed away, which would have put us in big trouble. And then in the semi, the tip over the bar when it was 2-0. Yeah. And she was absolutely brilliant. I mean, Di, she doesn't usually watch football or take much interest. She watched the whole game and said, Christ, that goalkeeper is bloody brave.
Oh, she was a magnet. Absolute magnet.
Yeah. To me, she was certainly England, you know, player of the tournament from what I saw of it. I didn't see every single game, but say it's just a pity she didn't get the credit she deserved.
I think she got a touch onto the one where they hit the post as well. I think she got a touch.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing as well is she plays with such a smile on her face well, like literally everything. I mean, we talk about the shithousery side. If you look at the other side of shithousery, you know, like when they've taken that free kick and she's just caught it out of thin air and gone on the floor and then just got up sticking her tongue out. I absolutely love that, because I'm just sat there going, that's the character in the change rooms. Obviously, you can see on my background, that she's the ringleader. She was a ringleader on all of that. And I think that's good. And we're fortunate. I've never met her, but one of my goalkeepers is good friends. Mary's a family friend of theirs, and she meets her quite regularly. And I can see, Rich has seen my keeper Robin play. They are literally the same person. So to see that that's an idol of hers. She's only just started playing for England, really. She's obviously admired her from a younger age, and you can see the impact that's having already. And then we talk about the stories you said about the celebrations, like with Kelly's celebration afterwards, coming from the Bobby Zamora story and all of this kind of stuff. And it's just, some of their background stories are brilliant as well. It's just, I think, you can't help but have a sentimental tear to your eye with some of the stories that they go through. And then add to the fact that it's women's football that wasn't taken seriously 50 years ago, 10 years ago.
And sports personality of the year has already written itself this year, hasn't it, for the team and the actual overall winner? So no more sport required for the remainder of the year.
Linking into what Woody said there, though, based on a conversation I was having with someone else during the semi-final, getting to know the characters behind, like, you've got the players on the pitch, but getting to know the characters is what's going to help develop it more. And the more you see this sort of stuff, like, I love nothing more than when the video got shared of them all coming on during her press conference and like Woody's background dancing on the table and stuff. That was so good. Like, you've got the BBC team obviously doing their job, trying to interview straight after the game, and they're like just throwing the microphone down to go and sing Sweet Caroline stuff. That is what you want to see, and then you get the stories behind the players and you get to know them, and that's what's going to, I think, attract people and invest people more.
Yeah. I think I mean, one of the things I did want to talk about with the game specifically was the goal by Alatoon. I mean,
filth.
I mean,
absolute filth.
You saw well, I think it was Walsh who did the pass. I think, was it Walsh?
Yes.
Yeah. You saw her look up. She saw the run at 2 and she timed it to perfection. And then she's running towards the edge of the area. The keeper's coming out. She's got a player breathing on her neck. And to have the composure and the coolness to just dink it over the goalkeeper like that just shows pure class, that does. And it's just so entertaining and so good to watch.
Well, if someone like Messi did it, the media would be purring over it for years.
Yeah, exactly.
We said that about Russo's back heel as well. If that was Messi, we'd still be talking about it in 3 years' time.
Yeah. It just shows how far the game has come as well. I think anyone who still, and there's always going to be people who have doubts about the women's game or sneer at it, but you look at that goal and tell me that is not world class. That was
and the pass is
and
outrageous.
Yeah, absolutely tremendous. And yeah, I think for me personally, waiting for that full-time whistle, carrying my 4-year-old daughter who's really into football at the moment, that'll be, and then when the final whistle went and we'd won, that moment will always be with me, whether she stays into football or not. And I want to thank the Lionesses from the bottom of my heart. Not that they'll see this, but for giving me and my daughter
say never.
That moment. It was absolutely amazing, and to make the country so happy, they've got our eternal thanks, I think.
Absolutely.
So yeah, unless there was anything else you guys wanted to add about the Lionesses, we'll move on to our final part, and that'll be looking forward to Saturday with Salford. We'll start with you, Ned.
Just going to say something about it,
because you obviously missed the Lionesses.
I think Rich was trying to get in a few times there on the Lionesses chat.
Oh, sorry, Rich.
Don't worry about it. It's honest.
No, that's fine. You go ahead, mate. Sorry, I had no idea, mate.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, for me, obviously, I go see, obviously, me and Woody, we obviously go see the Swindon women quite a lot. Obviously, I'm quite heavily invested as well, and obviously, I like to know what's going on and everything like that. And I know quite a lot of people in the Swindon women's team that were actually at the game yesterday, and to see some of their social medias and stuff like that. and just seeing their videos and the atmosphere and everything like that at Wembley yesterday was just absolutely unbelievable. And I hope this does inspire not just young girls, but young boys as well, that maybe not exactly into football at this current time, that their home nation winning the Euros on home soil as well, actually go to their local club, go to their local after school club or something like that. And you know, I've got a girl on my team that I coach, and I really hope that this inspires her even more now, because I mean, she's a good player, but she has the potential to be an amazing player. So hopefully something like this will have the backing of a lot of kids at a young age. So it's groundbreaking personally, but it's something that I think is long overdue, and I feel as if that it's brilliant to see, and I'm really, like Woody said a few times, I really hope this is the beginning of something, of a complete change in culture now, where the men and women do get sort of equal rights, and that that both sides of the game, doesn't matter what sex it is, gets enough attention as possible. I saw a couple of things today that Chelsea women have sold out season tickets. They're completely sold out. Just after obviously the England women show. I mean, Chelsea women, they have a great fan base as it is, but for them to sell out season tickets is fantastic news. And another thing, which is actually, I think, quite sad as well, that and I know it's a country thing, and I know countries don't get an awful lot of money for winning tournaments as it is. It's the same with the men's as well, but something like the England women only won 55,000 for winning the Euros yesterday, which doesn't even scratch the surface with Cristiano Ronaldo's weekly wage.
Yeah, that is. I'm sorry, that is an absolute disgrace. You look at the money that's going into UEFA. You look at the the greedy six in our country and the greedy teams all across Europe that are trying to maintain the status quo. And then you've got UEFA. I mean, that is just absolutely ludicrous.
And I'm not saying that should be the winning prize, not at all. But no. I'm just saying that I think it speaks volumes of the fact that where the women's game is currently at, and where some of the men's playing at. And personally, for me, I don't think it will ever get to that point where the women's game will be superior to men's. Because I think the men's is just, obviously, it's way it has been for years, and it's even taken years for that to even get to where it is, to see the wages that some of these players are on. And I'm not like saying that the women's is ever going to get to that point, but I do feel as if now that it should start to pick up now, and hopefully women's transfers, because somebody said in one of my WhatsApp groups today, said, what's the typical wage for a women's football player? What transfer fee? And I said, to be honest with you, the transfer fees in the women's game don't really get that publicized or anything like that. But I had a quick Google earlier, and I think the highest paid player at the moment in the women's game is Sam Kerr, and I think she gets around 400 grand a year. And again, that just speaks volumes, really, where it is. So now, hopefully, the impact that this Euros has had in the English women's game, and how US have actually been pushing this whole thing for the last God knows how many years, hopefully the women's game can combine and actually start pushing, and hopefully all the nations will start to see some fantastic women's football being played.
No, absolutely, mate. I don't think that even like the women players and managers themselves want parity with the men's game, but I think to close that gap substantially, because it's just such a huge gap at the moment, and let's face it, you know, this women's Euros has been more entertaining than tournaments that I've watched England men's play in for a long time. And like you were saying, mate, hopefully this will see a surge of participation and equality for young girls and women across the country playing the game. So yeah, and we'll now move on to Salford then, and let's look to Saturday then. We'll start with you then, Ned, as you've been waiting very patiently. What are your thoughts for Saturday against Salford?
Well, we've got to play better. Understatement of the year. Do you know what? There's something I forgot to mention in the review of the last game, and I hope that they take heed for this game, and that was Solbrin's top. You know, his with like an orangey color. He seemed to blend into the background. I mean, I'm not sure if it was the same for you guys at the ground, but you know, like for example, for the Lou Reed back pass, I didn't even see him there at all because his top sort of merged into the background behind the stand. I was just, oh my god, you know, I've never actually seen that with a goalkeeper top before. But we have got an alternative, haven't we? Got is it bright yellow or green? Okay. But yeah.
Sorry, yeah, the other goalkeeper top is green from what I saw in the in pre-season.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll change that over. What's that?
I thought it was bright yellow.
Yeah,
bright yellowy, limey green sort of. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, you know, like a fluorescent
fucking
highlighter. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, either way, hopefully they change that, because it didn't. You know, it didn't. I'm sure that's not helping the centre backs if they're trying to sort of catch the keeper out the corner of their eyes, see if he's coming to claim the ball. I'm sure that's not going to help if he's fading into the background. But anyway, yeah, I genuinely think we'll play a hell of a lot better. We can't fail to play better than we did on Saturday, because that was dog awful. But I do think we'll play a lot better. I think. I'm hoping that they don't play McDonald and Baldry, because I feel that there's not enough pace. I would like them to maybe try one of the younger guys. I think, you know, possibly, you know, as a 3, but we'll see. I'm not sure, as I said, I'm not sure whether it was an off day or what, but I just feel that there was, you know, the distinct lack of pace, and I think we're going to get found out against Salford because their front 3 are full of pace, so it does set the alarm bells a little bit. But yeah, I think we'll play better. I think we'll draw. I think we'll draw 1-1.
Okay, mate. Yeah, on to you then, Nick.
Well, I said earlier that I thought we would have won last Saturday and then lose at home to Salford, typical Swindon. Hopefully it's going to be a typical Swindon the other way, have a real crap first game, then win one that I certainly wasn't expecting us to win. I don't know anything about Salford, to be honest, player-wise. I watched Ben's pod the other day when he's on with the Northampton, Bradford and Hartlepool boys, and I'm sort of along with the Northampton lad there. I don't really give a shit about anybody else. I follow Swindon and take note of them. So, you know, it could be anything, to be honest, absolutely anything. You know, we could shit out it and win 3 or 4-0, or you know, equally we could lose a crap 1-0. So I've got no idea what the result will be.
That sounds like a standard Ben Nichols answer. It could be a win, lose, or draw.
No, I didn't say
Nick, you might be the guy.
You're going to take his title.
Yeah.
No, cheers, Nick. On to you then, Woody. What do you think for Saturday?
Well, good result for them on Saturday, Salford. So, you know, but they look, evidently, speaking to one of my mates as well, he was actually there. strangely. He said Mansfield absolutely battered them. They just couldn't score. So that's, that's both worrying and interesting because, are they going to do the same to us, given that they're going to be away? Are they just going to soak it up and see what we can do? I agree with Ned. We need to play 100 times better, otherwise we could be on the end of a hiding. We talk about players that stay with clubs. One player that, although I despise Salford, one player that I do like is Thomas Asante, and I just think that he could have the ability to tear us apart if we're not careful. And but yeah, I think we will do the Swindon thing because we went into, some fans went into meltdown on Saturday. So I actually think I'm going to put my neck on the line and say we're going to win this one 3-0, and then we're all going to be saying that we're going to piss the league. So I think, and I think McCurdy's going to get off to start on Saturday. I think he's going to start his goal tally. Yeah,
let's hope so, mate. Let's face it. Every result is going to either be HMS piss the league or we're getting relegated. It's definitely looking that way at the moment. Ben, what do you think for Saturday?
I hope that Lindsay's brave enough to make some changes, and I'd love to see Khan start. Performance-wise, I just want to see a bit more, just be a little better and just a little bit creative up front and just look a bit sturdier at the back. I think we will be, and I agree that we'll draw 1-1.
Ben's taken, because Nick's gone, it could be a win, loss or draw. Ben's like, right, what other cliche can we do? Let's attack better and defend better. We might get a result.
Yes. Well, yes. And am I wrong?
Well, at least he was decisive in his prediction for a change. So that was good.
Well,
thing.
1-1 draw. 1-1.
Yeah.
I think we'll draw 1-1 and we'll be better than Saturday, but not good enough to win.
Nice one, mate. Rich?
I think we'll draw 1-1 and everyone will still be in meltdown. But I
thought you were just going to do like a mic drop. That's it. That's all I'm saying.
I should just leave it at that, really. No, I think me and Woody were talking on Saturday, and we both literally said we just want to see a reaction, whether or not we win, draw, or lose. We got to play, number one, better. Think a little bit more attacking, but also have the cover at the back. And have that sorted out, and we just got to do an awful lot better that makes us competitive in this league, and that we're going to be competitive in this league this year, because that's what we need to do. Saturday was no reflection. I want to see something against Salford.
Yeah, we certainly need to be playing well at home if we've got any chance of going up this season, unlike last season. What's your thoughts, Mark?
I think it will be a case of win the battles, we'll win the game. And to do that, you need Khan on the pitch to begin with, nice stick warm between the sticks. I don't think it's going to be a pretty game of football. I think the reaction will be along the lines of get out there and prove that you can, actually win the ball and do stuff with it and battle and do the ugly things well. And that's the type of performance we're going to need to put in against the teams like Salford, who are fancied. They're going to play an attacking and an expansive game. They have, I think everyone's agreed, gone under the radar a little bit, and not so much in their transfer activity, but in terms of how they're set up and geared to go, and that they had a fantastic result at the weekend. So I'm fully expect them to come and have a go. Whether that suits us or not, I would worry if the same team starts the start of the weekend, get a reprieve.
I can tell you straight away it won't be, because Brennan's out for 4 weeks, I think 3 to 4 weeks, I think, with concussion.
Wow. Okay.
Concussion 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, well, concussion really for anybody, and actually I know this because I was reading up on it about it, because Woody sent it to me the other day, that for a concussion it's I think around 3 weeks.
Until
you can even and he looked really dazed when he came off, so it wouldn't surprise me if he did have concussion.
Aiton or Harry then at the back.
I hope go too. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know, but to be honest with you, from a confidence point of view, I don't know why you wouldn't consider dropping to a back four, just letting the team, because every footballer understands the arc of a back four. Just give them something they're confident with and let them build the play out from the back. That's what they want to do. We played 4-3-3 so well last season. We've got the players to do it this season. So
different squad now.
Yeah, just ditch the 3-5-2. I hate it. I don't like that formation at all. But like I said, stick Ward in goal, get Khan in from the beginning, tell them to get out there and win their battles, do the ugly well. And I reckon we're going to win. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. I reckon we'll win 1-0. We owe Salford for the performance that we had against them home last year.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with that, Mark. And Fifey.
Picking up on a couple of things that the other guys have said, I do believe we will see a reaction. I think the performance will be substantially better than it was at the weekend. It will be a very tough game. I do think we will win. I'm probably going to say it's more likely to be what Mark said than Woody, but I'll happily go in the middle and say 2-1. I do think he will make changes. I do think Khan will play for one. Whether he'll change the goalkeeper, I'm not so sure. Whether that's the right thing to do as well is another thing to consider. Will he change the tactics? Possibly. I think he'll look at what Salford have got about them and pick his team accordingly. But I agree. A couple of you said it when I first logged in. It's the Swindon thing to do. And yes, we lose to Harrogate. We beat Salford. Had it have been the other way round and we beat Harrogate and lose Salford, people say that's possibly more or less about right. So if we beat Salford, we're exactly where a lot of people would have thought we'd be after 2 games, and there's no problem. I think Woody's right. If we do put in a good performance and win, then those same people who said National League incoming, worst Swindon Town squad ever assembled will be saying HMS pissed the league, this is easy, blah, 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 blah. Bradford. But I just hope, and this is a serious hope, that if we're not 1-0 up in the first 10 minutes, the fans don't already get edgy, start shouting forward, start booing, start screaming all sorts of abuse for no reason, and just follow the pattern. We know what we should know, and we should be able to see in the setup, in terms of personnel, in tactics, in terms of play, what we're trying to do. Follow the process, believe in the process, and back the process. It's the first home game of the season. We do not need to be getting on the backs of our own players. If we're 3-0 down again, then yes, absolutely, there'll be disgruntlement, and rightly so. But first home game of the season, let's all come together. Let's hope, more than anything, that last weekend was just a bad day at the office. They caught us at completely the wrong time, and the season starts this weekend.
Yeah, no, you're spot on, mate. That's a very sound opinion there, mate. I mean, for me, I can see us having a good reaction, but because I don't think that Lindsay will change the formation, I think he should. I agree with everything Mark said. I don't think he will, and for that, I think we will play better, but I don't think we'll get the win. I think it will be 1 each. Hopefully, Harry McCurdy will get on the score sheet, get his first goal, and then go from strength to strength. But yeah, you're spot on, Fifey. The fans need to be patient. That first half or so, don't get on players' backs. So you can see what's going to happen. Maybe, if Gladwin misplaces a pass, you can almost tell what's going to happen. And it'd be interesting.
Mark's turned into this season's Woody. He's just mouthing there. He will misplace a pass.
Well, he probably will, but it's getting on his back after, if he does it in the first 10 minutes, it's not gonna help. So yeah, but yeah, if everyone's finished, we'll wrap up there. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, Nick, Ned, Mark, Ben, Rich, Woody, and Fifey. Fifey's going to join his friend Jack Daniels in a minute, so
No.
he'll be pleased.
Jack's been sacked.
Yeah.
Jack's gone home.
What
and
about
again-
Gavin Gunning?
Oh, we
New
forgot about
coach.
him. Yeah, we got a coach.
Oh right. Okay.
Good luck to him.
Oh well.
Good luck, Gavin.
Good luck to Gavin. I'm about done because I want to go to bed. So
Yeah, that's where
Good
you
luck,
get Gav.
Gavin. Come
Then
on, you
people
Reds.
chat about you.
don't worry. There'll be more professionalism next week when Fife is back in. But for those of you
You've done a
listening and
wonderful job,
watching,
Craig.
sorry.
You've done a wonderful
Oh,
job.
well, thank
Well
you
done,
very
Phil
much. I
Fifey.
don't want to do it again, so don't go out again, mate, please. But again, for those of you watching and listening, thanks again so much for interacting with us on social medias. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider leaving a like, subscribe, hit the bell notification and all that. If you're listening on a podcast, leave us a 5-star review if you like. You can write anything you want in the comments. You can even take the piss out of the host. You could say, instead of me hosting it, you'd rather it was hosted by Melinda Messenger and Tim Sherwood. And I mean, I would pay good money for that. So,
You know what? I would pay good money for Tim Sherwood to come on here, and I would just go, off we go then, lads.
But again, thank you. Thanks guys for putting up with me today. And thanks again, everyone, for listening. And we will join you next week. Cheers again. Good night.
You Reds.
Oh, I better stop the fucking recording.